Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today we're going to be painting this adorable Renaissance bunny step by step. This is an acrylic class. I'm going to explain everything I'm doing step by step. We're going to break this into chapters. If you check the description, there's a link to all the materials and a list of all the materials that I'm using, extra information, stuff to the website. I'm working on an 8x8 surface today, and on the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
As I'm teaching you how to paint this bunny, he's going to be making sure that the camera is zoomed in when it needs to be zoomed in, pointed at what it needs to be pointed at, and he's also going to be looking for your live questions. If you're here during the live show, put your questions all in caps. Since this isn't one of our academic color mixing classes, we take the questions during the show. A lot of times, though, the moderators know where that answer is, and they may share with you a link. Our moderators are art ambassadors more than art cops. So... I mean, they're here for the occasional weird, rare troll that we get, but mostly it's just to let you guys know where stuff is located that you're looking for. I'm sorry I'm a little bit word tumbled today. I am coming out of a couple of days where I felt real off. So I feel like if you've ever had that sort of recovery space, like you're doing stuff and you're out there, but like your brain's a little like words, concepts, struggling finding them. It won't affect the teaching today.
They'll be there.
We'll be there. Let's go down over the materials, John. Let's do that. This is going to actually be a lot of fun. So I'm working on an 8x8 surface. This is the Art Alternatives Classic Cotton Canvas, and I really like these. I have all the colors out. I have phthalo green, dioxazine purple, cad red medium, quinacridone magenta, lemon yellow Hansa, cad yellow medium, yellow ochre. You could use yellow oxide. They're pretty interchangeable. Burnt sienna, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, Mars black, and titanium white. I just put everything out because it's a very complex painting. We're going to be really getting into the details. This is what I call a 3-hoot. A 3-hoot basically means this. So I believe beginners, thank you so much, Heather C. I believe beginners come in stages, and there is a group of beginners who haven't ever painted, haven't really picked up a crayon or anything since grade school. And then there are people who haven't painted in a really, really long time, but used to paint. Then there are people who are either painting a few times or they're back to painting and they've done a few paintings and they know kind of concepts and terms and have techniques and they have materials and tools, but they still need deep step-by-step instruction. And then there are beginners that have the tools and techniques and everything, but they need to know how they all pull together to make a more complex painting. That's what I call a 3-hoot. And so that's why everything is listed for beginners, because this is beginner instruction. It is broken down step by step. Many of the people here will tell you that they have done a 3-hoot painting far sooner than they thought they were ready. And that's a lot because the instruction is broken down. And it allows you to paint more complex stuff earlier than maybe. Also, I'm not going to expect you to draw this complicated little dude out. I am going to freehand him out on the canvas, but I have a traceable on the website that's free to download that you can just go grab and transfer him on the canvas. If you've never done that before, I have a video on how to do that because I don't expect you to even know how to trace or do rubbings or transfer of any kind. You can come here not knowing anything. We'll explain it to you, even if this seems a little bit beyond your current level. I suggest you watch the video because we have this thing called mirror neurons, and those allow us to learn even when we're not painting. And I say this for all the people who tell me I've been watching your videos and I'm not ready to paint, but I'm thinking about it. Just so you guys know, you're actually learning. So you're still doing the work. You're just not producing paintings. And really, it's such a transient time that we're here on the planet. The paintings are kind of ephemeral anyways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's throw up step 1. Step 1 is the easiest one to get done because we're going to do something called an acrylic ground. When we're doing a surface that's so rich like this and has kind of that Renaissance feel, I like to put out, you don't have to do this way. This is my funny way of doing this. Are you doing an overhead so we can get a time lapse? John?
Yeah.
Yay! I just want to make sure you're doing an overhead.
Okay. We are.
Yay! I'm going to take a big brush and I'm going to just smudge out all my brown paint because all I want is my canvas to start with a coat of brown. This is just going to allow me to have really rich color and have a lot of depth in the painting. It's one of those things, if you're very, very new to painting, you don't know when a painting needs an acrylic ground versus when you want to start on a white canvas. So that's an area where instruction sometimes can be a little bit helpful. You can paint the sides if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. It's allowed. It is good to paint at least around the bend in case you want to frame, because you don't want white to show around the frame. That looks a little yucky. Now this coat can be very thin and streaky. It can be very thick and coating. It really doesn't matter. It's just about getting that white off the canvas and creating a warm, rich underpainting. And remember, if you did the color mixing class, you think of brown as kind of an orange, right?
Right.
So that's sort of a fun thing. Now I am going to dry my surface with a hairdryer. And John is going to talk to you while I do that, generally in a very panicked voice because he always forgets what to say. And when mine is dry and yours is dry, we will come back and get on to the next step.
Actually, today, I don't really have a whole lot to talk to you about off the top of my head because I'm slightly distracted by where cinnamon is placed on the screen. So what I'm going to tell you is while we're sitting here together, I'm going to adjust her just a little bit over so that she's not quite, see, there we go. Not quite covering quite so much of the surface. Okay, well, that was sort of interesting. Other thing you should know that's interesting is you should not dry your paint with heat. Heat's bad. It can cause all sorts of weird things like color shift and your paint to get sticky and react funny ways. Now, not all paint, but just in general, it's a good thing to not use paint. Just use air when drying it. And yeah, that's it. Check out links in the description down below. There's all sorts of cool stuff, including where to find mini books, traceables, our store, the patronage, all the cool stuff that we do, which is always there. So you can check that out. There's links to the events if you're looking for the events. Thank you all of our patrons who always help support us. There's all sorts of crazy cool stuff going on. Constant changes on the website, new and updated things. We're adding new support for the school. That's coming in. Yep, that's about it. I just sort of rambled on about some stuff. You ready for the next step?
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Stephanie Nolan asks, when do you use an acrylic round? How do you know when to use that? There's a couple strategies that, as an artist, when you're more experienced, that you're looking for. If I have a lot of light colors and yellows and transparent pigments that I know are going to be in a piece, I will probably start with a white surface. If I have a very rich Renaissance deep painting, it's a still life, it's got a lot of rust browns, it's got a lot of depth into the color, I'll start with a ground. And then if I have to lighten a specific area, then I will start there. It's a lot about the subject that I'm painting and how I get to the finished result. So the reason we chose this for the bunny is, if you look, it's quite a dark, broke little lighting around the bunny, and you see her kind of lit in the center. So by putting this brown down, I've created a richness of depth that I can continue to layer up on, and it will actually lend to the overall wealth of the painting.
Nice.
So, let's do the time warp again. All right, so I'm going to come here and I'm going to divide the surface in half.
Which color was that you just squirted on there? Because you went right from the tube.
Burnt sienna.
Burnt sienna. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! If I didn't say that, I'm really sorry.
I think you may have. It's just I didn't see. Someone was asking because they I was
It's
like,
probably me. It's probably not you guys. It's probably me. I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna divide that in half and make a little line using a tool called a T-square. And I'm gonna come in this way and make another little mark at the 4 mark, and then make a little side line. And you know what? See how my chalk isn't just offloading on the surface? That means that my paint is not quite dry. It's dry to the touch and it's dry generally, but it's not completely dry. So I'm going to want to dry it a little more for depth.
Yeah. That's one of the things. You got to thoroughly dry it, and that sometimes it takes a little bit more, and that can be a thing. So as just a note there, if you come across this problem where your chalk sticks, it could be because it's not fully dry, or check the temperature of it if you did use heat, because this is one of those areas where chalk, if the paint's soft, it won't work on it quite the same. So you got to kind of be mindful of those things and thoroughly dry. Dry. Yeah, so narrating paint drying. It's a skill that one would not think you would develop in your repertoire of things to do.
Let's see if we got it enough. Sometimes it takes a second to get it enough. Clean my little chalk. This is a Dritz chalk tool. It's used by tailors, and it just generally comes off the painting pretty easily. I'm going to try to remake those marks. And burnt sienna oftentimes kind of resists chalk, but as you can see, I'm able to make that mark now. The difference is the dryness of the paint. Almost like 90% of where we struggle with artists is having the paint not dry enough or too dry. It's like most of what's going on for us as artists. So that's something to look for. And if what you're seeing is if you see that there's no chalk being left, but you're getting an indent in the paint, it's dry, but it's not dry. And that's why it's doing that. Just might not know that. Now, my other advice is if you need your vision enhancers, put your vision enhancers on. And I'm going to go through drawing this. I'll try it first with chalk. If it's too light, I'll switch over to paint. You guys can use the traceable now and transfer the image on canvas. But I right now just kind of want to gather scope and scale and talk about like the space that my bunny take up. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at my reference. And I'm trying to see in scale how much space does El Bun Bun take up here. Where are we at? And the thing is you would think like, so if you do the drawing digitally and then you go to draw it in the canvas, it feels like it should be the same. But it actually isn't, because in a digital surface or in digital spaces, or when you do any kind of sketch out, like even on your traceables, because you're in the computer, you can zoom up, you can use a lot of tools like grids or symmetry. And when you go on your canvas, you've got to really think about these things kind of old school spatially. So that's just something that you might not know that I do kind of take into account. I'm coming over and doing the basic shape of the head first. Because this is, and believe it or not, if you go back into my old artwork, you'll actually find Renaissance bunnies from like a long time ago, back when we were in the SCA. But you will find them existing in the archives of the internet, I think. So what I try to do first is get the overall shape of an object that I'm working on and then make adjustments within that as I kind of can see scale and relative relationships to something. This isn't like drawing when you draw with a pencil and you're trying to create just a rendering itself in, you know, charcoal or something. This type of drawing is more about blocking out space for when you're painting. So if ever you're going between digital to traditional media and you're like, how come it's easy for me here and harder for me there? That might be something that's happening for you. Is the digital space, it's not cheating and it doesn't make it easier in that way, but it's just a different tool. And the changes in that tool can feel really... I'm going to kind of try to get my little face line here. So just like a human face, I might create a dividing line in that space. I'm got to make sure that I am placing things where they go. And so you'll see me thinking a little bit hard, but that's okay. I should be thinking hard. Come above the nose line here and drop some eyes. I love doing that. The eyes are my favorite part, as y'all know. Right? But you can see it's not like a super serious kind of sketch thing. Coming in and kind of defining a little bit of the forward jaw. These sort of turned faces are a lot of fun to work. You can see I can erase with my finger. There we go. Kind of bringing a little jaw down here. And I always look at how things are in relationship to each other when I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to render it out. And you can see you just start to define the spaces more. So see how I made a decision there? It's because I can see that the ear in relationship to my eye, right? They're too close together, so I have to move that out a bit. You can see that just pushed it back from that eye line, which definitely improved. Make that also smaller. Those two adjustments will help me there. We've got quite a little ruff or collar here. The center of the dress is going to line up under the nose. Little clothing design art there. Right, and we have sort of two ruffs, which is sort of fun. I like that. It's very, is this a period piece? I can tell you from my extensive LARPing, no.
It's, I don't know. I mean, if you were from the bunny Glen, it may be a bunny ancestor that
It could be a
it
bunny
could this could
ancestor.
totally be. I mean, yeah, I can see it. Bunny from the Glen.
So I'm just sort of changing the relationships
Taking
again,
it.
because what I've got to have is I've got to be able to have room for the paws. And so I have to make adjustments for the very traditional little positioning of these paws, which represent hands. This is sort of like a pose or position you'd expect in a Renaissance painting. If you're ever wondering, like, how would I create something like this for myself? What you would do is you would look at a lot of Renaissance paintings, and then bunnies is really what it is, right? We're looking at the bunnies and a lot of Renaissance paintings. And then trying to decide how we can take elements from both and incorporate them together. Right, so you can see I'm moving that in. And so that's what I'm doing, is I will adjust the drawing as I'm working. Another reason why chalk is quite a lovely tool. And the dress may change a little bit in the painting, but that's okay. Because now I've got my double A ruffs. And my bunny is in the correct flouncy position. I think I could move that one in even a little closer. I want to make sure that their size relationship fairly well together. And we know I've got some flowers here. And I've got a little rococo little lighting background. It's super fun. All right, I feel like we're getting there. And I do really like the chalk for the way it lets me change my mind and come in. I didn't used to do the drawings on these bigger ones. We would start it with the traceable, but so many of you are starting to go and do your own rendering. I've been getting a lot of requests to just include the drawing part. Also, on the rare occasion somebody accuses me of not having my own art done, you can see me make And I think more and more these days that will be a appreciated thing.
I like the bunny.
Yeah, I'm not minding the bunny very much. I think I want to move this out here a little bit. We don't have to be perfect. I just, you know, I do need to know where the bunny is. I've got a lot of forgiveness because of fur and fluff. Fur and fluff will give me a lot of forgiveness. I need to make sure that the chin is fairly close into the little nosy mouth. That helps kind of round the face, sweeten the face. Okay, I think we're good. How do you guys think?
I think that's great.
So if you had the traceable, you're done already,
Yep.
and you've been waiting for me patiently. Do we have any questions?
Let's see here. There was one. Everyone was asking if we were excited about the upcoming move, which.
Oh gosh, me too, man. Oh my gosh, me too. Me too. The move. Think positive thoughts about us getting a house, because that's the trick in Ireland.
That's the next step right now. Now, is the Sennelier Abstract Purple the same as Diox Purple?
It's a little less tinting. It's a little lighter and actually easier to work with, which is why sometimes on the 13 days of Halloween, I like to switch to the pouch paint, because you can get some of those more Halloween-y colors with just a bit of ease. It's rather nice as a color, I think.
And you know, and thank you, Bug, for reminding us. And I some love goes out to Bug's fur baby and all the fur babies out there who need love and support today. This is a great painting to send those good vibes out to. And remember all those fur babies.
Remember your fur babies.
Send love and support to them.
Love your fur babies. I don't know that that's true, but love the fur babies.
We're off to the next step now.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure I will change things as I paint. Now I'm going to be doing the background. It is definitely going to be scruffy brush time. Scruffy brush time. Scruffy brush time. Love my scruffy brush time. I'm still going to use my vision enhancers because, well...
Envision.
Vision is so helpful. And what's great is I'm going to start over here in the much, much darker part of the surface. I'm using a number 18 Raphael Artini brush. A lot of you guys are like, that's a little out of my price range. And when it is, you can do the Simply Simmons in Hog, and that will get you through. You don't have to feel real trapped. Now I'm going to paint back into my chalk a bit. For me, that's not as big of a deal. You may need to really preserve your chalk lines to hold your rendering. But remember, if you're using the traceable, you can always come back and reset it. You know, get back in there and reset those little lines. Now, as I'm going around, I'm going to come over and I'm going to get a little bit into my yellow ochre, and I'm going to start to loosely blend that in. You know what? I think my chair is low. I feel like I'm like the... I think my chair has been lowered. I feel like I'm sitting here feeling super duper short.
Hold on a second. Let's do this. I'm going to do this. You just
Is it low? Oh, man, how long has that been going on? Oh, you're going to have to reset me, but I don't even care. That's so much better. How long has it been set that badly? I have been feeling, I may be quite low on my acrylic April paintings. I've been feeling like I've been shrinking.
You know what it is that these chairs do over time slowly leak down. So it could be like I all the time have to relift this one up because about 3 times a day it leaks down enough.
Oh my goodness.
So maybe you just
I'm the kind of person I will put up with it. I'm just going forward with the yellow ochre.
You're just like, why are you moving the table?
Why can't I see the bunny, man? I feel like I'm just having to.
You're squinting to see where the bunny went.
I couldn't see it, and I've
And
had all
you
kinds of things I've been struggling to see lately.
I have to shrink you now because you're so much bigger on the palette.
Oh, I am. Well, I'm not really blocking anything right now. Hi. How exciting is this? I'm just working a little yellow ochre over here just to start. Little burnt sienna and black coming back. I like to do this in a couple of layers. As I come over more and more, I'm going to get more into the yellow ochre. And I'll go fairly into my bunny because, again, I have fur. That's super funny. I have been struggling, John.
I can understand.
I was like, why did I think this would be a better position for me? Why did I think of having it be angled? Because it's made it so much harder. This is why.
This is why. Because when you're up there, then it's better.
So I guess the message there is sometimes when we're creatives and we're neurodivergent, we ADHD, weird stuff can really throw us, and you get so deep into what you're doing that you can miss stuff like, I used to be a foot taller. And that might be causing me trouble. Oh, this is going to be so much more pleasant to paint today. I feel really foolish for how long I've let myself be uncomfortable.
I just wish that I had known earlier.
What? If you ever wonder if it's me and it's live or if I'm a deep fake, just watch for goofy moments like this because nothing artificial would ever think of it. Can I heat my coffee? We got to do another step.
I got it.
Dry.
So while she's drying there, yeah, it's this is one of those things where if you notice that as the paint dries, it will get more matte, and it will get it will slightly change its sheen again. But there's that subtle changes as the paint dries. So, make sure you monitor your heat, thoroughly dry it, and that's so that when you're doing the next steps, you don't drag your hand through the paint, and that's it helps. So also, especially when doing edges, check the edges, because a lot of times when you're painting these, you'll leave a little wet bit of paint around the sides, and sometimes when you'll touch it and then you'll get paint on yourselves. So it's a thing that happens. I'll put up a step and then I'll warm your coffee up.
Oh, thank you. Gonna also get into a round, guys. That was so funny. Hello, Cian says Doodle says I love this group. And then Charlotte's like, that can happen. It's fun for us to see. My mom and I are so very similar in these struggles. I got to tell you. I think that's been the weirdest thing for John Little is seeing me and my mom in the same space. And because right now I'm staying with my mom while our visa's like just about wrapped up. It's actually going really well, but we also have to wait for housing, and that is in quite a shortage in Ireland. And luckily, we're comfortable being more in the country. We just got to have a place for the kids to go to school. But you still have to, it's really hard to get a house. Think positive thoughts for us. I have one in my mind I'd really like to get. Think positive thoughts about me getting it because we'll be there imminently if I do. So he's getting to see us here. And I think how many times, like, I will do a thing that my mom does. I'll put a cup in a weird place, or I'll do a weird, strange thing where he's like, you are a lot like your mother. I'm like, yeah, maybe, probably, yeah. All right, that's really good. I'll do one more sip. The pleasure of sipping coffee is a great pleasure. I don't know if you do tea or whatever your favorite beverage is, but it's just lovely, isn't it? The sips. Sippy, sippy. As Graveyard Girl used to say, and we used to chat about on the channel a million years ago. I'm going to go ahead and add a little of my white and yellow together. I'm using a 18 Raphael Artini round hog bristle brush. And I want to kind of let myself know that there's a couple little folds of curtains here. That I'm going to be paying attention to just a little bit. And then I've got this sort of lighter in the center space. I'm going to go ahead and get a little of my cad yellow into this. And so that's the yellow ochre, a little titanium white, and a little cad yellow. And I'm going to very lightly start to sketch out this like little layer of paint and lighten this up here. Maybe a little more yellow ochre. I'm painting my lighter color closer to my lines, and then I'm leaving a little bit of dark, and that's going to help me get those. You can kind of see that they're already coming in. You can see it already coming in. Isn't it fun to paint the canvas? I think that there's something just really wonderful. I'm going to take a little yellow ochre, a little cad red, and a little cad yellow, and I'm going to make kind of an interesting little orange here. I'm going to bring it in close to the bunny here. This should be a fairly fun and relaxing area of the painting to paint. It also is going to give us a little chance to work on the techniques we'll use with our fabrics, which can be a little overwhelming at first. I'm going right into my black. And I'm going to come here and sort of enforce maybe. So that has black and brown already there, and I'm just picking that up. I'm just making sure that I'm exaggerating those shadows. I will soften them later, but the exaggeration helps me kind of at first. Just making little taps and pulls of the brush. And I'm wanting to like pull it up. I'm going to rinse out, letting all this have a bit of a dry. I'm going to come over here and get a little bit of my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre together, and I'm going to maybe add some richness to this side of the surface. Does that work, John?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Can you see your screen up here?
No. What I hit that button that you gave me.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Like, okay, then it did. I'm just adding some wealth of like reflective lighting to this side. That's what we're doing, right? So there's this hot spot of lighting, but we know that some of it will reflect back further into the piece, and that's what we kind of tend to go in and do. Adding a little bit of that. Brushing it down. I have this weird experiment I want to do where I was like, I saw this streamer who like put up a plank of wood and her attendance like shoots up when it's the plank of wood. It's actually not unpleasant. I don't really know what the phenomenon is or what it's caused by.
I think it's silly curiosity. It's I've read about these different phenomenons. It's like, you know, there's a similar things. It's in performance art where like you can if you just start walking around a statue.
Oh, that one is a fascinating one I've seen.
Yeah. There's all sorts of interesting, like you can just start forming a line, and sometimes people will just form in line behind you.
Yeah, don't do that with me. I could cue for no reason. I will line up. There's no reason for it. Yep. Don't go by me. All right, we're going to dry everything and come back and do another step.
So yeah, interesting human phenomenon. We tend to be line makers and followers of little lines. So that's, I don't know, interesting things. But this bunny is turning into being something, isn't it? Got that Baroque bunny look. Broke bunny. Ah. Anyway, yeah, I don't know there's much to say about drawing the background of a bunny painting other than make sure it's dry. Yep. And to the next step, yay?
Yes, to the next step. Do this size D and see if I need to go smaller. Okay, you don't have to have this brush, but I'm going to tell you about it. It is a D brush. If you don't have the D brush, you would use maybe a filbert, or you could keep using a round. The way I want to brush mark this, I want to have some structure and then some blending. And this particular brush is new and it does a few things that are unique to it. But again, you don't have to have this brush to do this technique. I'm just telling you why I'm choosing it. I've got a grip of these. I've given a bunch of them to my mom. And I really enjoy them. So you can use a filbert, you could use a bright, you could use a round, but I'm choosing the D and you will see why in a second. I'm going to come into my orange mix over here. It is also a hog bristle. I'm kind of excited to get into it. Come around the bunny and blend this in. I love its scrubbiness. It has great scrub. Great scrub.
You made that the green, the weirdest dark green on the left side using the yellow.
Yes.
That was interesting.
Yeah, that will happen. It'll go a little green. Which is what we did on our color mixing course the other day, right? I'm kind of glazing over these extreme shadows I made earlier. Kind of like a dry brush, and you can see that that pushes them back. But we have them now. A little yellow ochre and white, and it's just going to be about the shading of the curtain. You want to highlight where it's at the highest point of the bend. A little bit of cad yellow. And remember, there's cad red over here. I'm making little short strokes, and I'm just kind of talking about that curtain as it comes down. I've added some brown to my brush. You're going to see me kind of pulling through the palette, hitting in my brown, hitting in my ochre, kind of creating the depth of these gold curtains. I have a whole video on painting gold, and one of the things that we really focused on was curtains. I wanted to move that over, which is why I kind of came in strong on that, and then I can blend it back. Dry brushing in a bit of a shadow. You can see as we do each of these things, it adds a little something, doesn't it? Little bit of cad red and cad yellow. And again, we want to pull little highlights through here. But in our deeper, richer golds, short little strokes to kind of mimic the texture of fabric. getting into my black here, and it's letting me kind of also create shape and fold. Get a little brown going. This doesn't need to be as bright as the rest of the fold, so I can start knocking it back. Gonna want to come into a little bit of my white. A little bit of my yellow here. Creating that central focus of light. Adding a little white. Just kind of highlighting that up. Can you see how we're doing? It is very easy to just go a little too far. So you will be dancing back and forth with it. A little bit of cad yellow and titanium white. Kind of still playing the heat of light there. Rinse out. Isn't it wild how it comes in? I'm going to go through and I'm going to take a little of my burnt sienna and come over here. Letting this have a bit of a dry so I can come and work it again. We've got time. And if we get a little tired, we can always break this up into 2 parts and meet again and have fun. So that's okay,
easy,
guys.
easy.
Right? Because that's the pleasure of our live class. We do what we need to do for our painting journey. Tapping this through with a little yellow ochre, kind of, you know, playing with that light there. A little cad yellow and yellow ochre. Kind of coming over the fold of that fabric. You can see I'm just softening. Look, I'll even dry brush lighten the fold. To just play with it back and forth until I'm really happy with the curtain that I've got. You can see I kind of do a cross hatch and then come back in and work on that lighting. Tapping that up there. And then I'm going to get into my black and brown again, like you kind of do. It's okay if it has a little yellow in it because we do want it to be muted. Let's add a little bit of that kind of dramatic little shading here. So that's a little bit kind of hidden and worked up through that. Little white and yellow ochre. I'm going to kind of lightly dust through here. A lot of layers, guys.
That's okay. It makes the background look very layered.
Well, that is a lot of how you get in there and you start playing with the depth of a piece. And you can kind of see why sometimes it's nice to start with something being kind of dark and enjoyable in that way. Wow, look at that. Look at us go. It was quite a background, quite a beginning, isn't it?
It really is.
I'd say she's right up there with the blue girl in difficulty. You know what I'm saying? How are you guys doing?
Very good. This has been a really good
painting so far.
Yeah.
Let's dry everything. We're going to get on to the bunny.
The bunny.
Bunny, 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 bunny.
I will ask what size that D brush was in just a minute there. I'll check that in a second. Sorry, I just read that comment. But, yeah, we're getting pretty close there on this. So, I like how the background becomes so, I don't know, textured is the right word, but it becomes so dimensional, you know. It really becomes sort of soft and velvety, and the light plays across it. See, what was that brush size you were just using, the D brush?
The D brush was a number 8.
Okay.
It's a nice mid-size. Number 8 is just a nice mid-size in this line of brushes, just generally.
All right, you ready?
If you're looking for some mid-size brushes, it's a nice mid-size. All right, I'm ready for a new step. Let's paint the bunny together. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my burnt sienna. That's going to give me kind of a gray. This is a number for, this is just a filbert. I could use another D brush, but I wanted a synthetic filament, so I'm switching to my filbert. And I'm going to start kind of seeing how I'm doing on the actual shaping of my bun's face. Like you do. And I'm putting in the shadows. And maybe some of the different highlights and lowlights and furs. Like you do. Looking at lightly and kind of maybe thinking about like how does that line go. This is a lot of lovely colors. So I'm just trying to get enough of this in so I can see where my eyes are. Let's get a little bit of my phthalo blue and ultramarine blue, interestingly enough. And I'm going to start working in the shading. Really going to have to think about my placement now of things. And that's what I'm trying to get, is the planes of the eye, nose, muzzle, inside a face. So I am using like phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, and my neutral colors over here to give myself just a basis to start from. They how it just kind of reveals the bunny's face. It's just so weird. But that's kind of how it comes in. And if these concepts are hard right now, I think the important thing to know is that they're not hard forever. That's what we've really got to remember, is hard today does not mean hard. Hair today does not mean hair tomorrow. Little bunny foo-foo hopping through the forest. You know, I don't actually know what that song's about. But they sang it a lot when I was a kid.
Well.
And you can see I'm using a very light application of paint.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get a sense of how things will shape on the bunny's face. I will probably shape the eyes more. I just really need to get this line there. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of my phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. Not a color you might necessarily think of. You can always work a little brown into it. But this is a great way to start to think about how we put fur in shadow. And then if I need to, I can trim back. I know I'm going to be coming here and fuzzing it out, right? So it's super important. Kind of work that first line out. Take a little bit of my Quin Magenta in my Cad Red, little of my Yellow Ochre, kind of give a pink undertone to the fur through here. Once I get this laid in, then I can do the details on the eyes, and that will help me a great deal. I'm going to get my little shadow color, but notice I didn't rinse my brush. You're going to see me go through a lot not rinsing a brush. And that's going to create an unusual unification. I just have this great color I know is in my ear later. So it's an easy time to put it in now. How's everybody doing? We haven't taken a question in a minute. I'm adding a little bit of my magenta over here.
Well, just looking, everyone was commenting that this looks very realistic the way that you're doing it.
Well, I'll tell you a little trick. Realism is a lot just taking your time and hitting all your values and layering up and really trying to just see what you've got. Right? It's sometimes what happens is we rush so quickly through the painting. You can't get to realism in a rush. Or more realistic. You know, that's not going to happen. More realistic isn't going to happen in that rush. Don't have to get this too far and too perfect by any means. Go ahead and kind of add a little cream through there. because I know I'm going to be coming back. Little highlight through here. Kind of got a little triangle into the bunny nose. You guys see that? And then I will go ahead and just come underneath there. Is it going to be in a much darker and lighter tones? Yes, we're just getting what we need to have right now. And also by coming through and hitting this stuff kind of in the beginning, including the pause, I can see placement. I can change my mind at this stage if I feel like I've made an error. I don't really feel like I have. Like, I'm going to go in with wherever she is right now because she's going to be magnificent and I just can't change her majesty from what she's got going on.
Yes.
Her HRH. Can't wait to do these little paws. Very excited about that. They're super sweet. You can see me going into the yellow ochre. So I'm using a lot of Diox purple and magenta and the yellow ochre, kind of working those contrasting colors. And take a little bit of phthalo blue and ultramarine blue and a little bit of Diox purple. Make sure I've got a nice little shock and shadow over here. And it goes into kind of a quinacridone over here, so I might as well kind of take that over there. A little bit of cad red. I'm going to soften that out. Isn't that lovely?
That really is.
I can come back through with a damp brush and kind of diffuse that. Right, we're just starting the.
If you could call out the colors that you're using as you're using them.
I think I am, aren't I?
Just some more. Someone was saying is that just make sure that you're doing some more.
Okay.
So
I will do that.
I'm just wanting to make sure that, because I'm trying to, I don't always catch.
I'm grabbing some yellow ochre and so if you mean like everything that was ever here from the beginning, that might be a little challenging.
No. Just as you're using them.
Right. Yeah. I'm adding a little yellow ochre into the mix. I continue to come here. Come around on this a little bit too. And again, we're just blocking in right now. There's still more. All right, we have a lot more to say about the bun bun. Just pull that in there, and I'm going to want to dry everything, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to throw in the eyes and maybe the detailing at the nose. And can I get a new fresher up on my coffee?
I think we can. So thank you guys. We appreciate everyone hanging out. If you are looking for where to find the patron stuff, so that's all being kind of moved around. If you are a current patron and you're having any trouble, first, please email support@theartsherpa.com and we'll get you helped. First, that's first thing first. If you are looking for the new patron area, it's moving. So you'll probably go to our store. So if you go to theartsherpa.com, you go to store, you'll find your patron login area. It'll all be there. Again, any questions, support@theartsherpa.com, and they'll help you there. So
I'll talk a little bit about the colors and go over the palette real quick while you heat my coffee. Okay. So in the bunny, we are going to be working through burnt sienna, yellow ochre, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, probably a little black every once in a while, but dioxazine purple, cad red, and quinacridone. Yeah. The mixes are going to be a lot where I'll get into the yellow ochre and the burnt sienna if we get into the white, and then come over here and warm and cool it with a little ultramarine, maybe quinacridone, maybe a cad red. So you can see that these colors are moving from paint plop to paint plop. And what we're trying to do is create this sort of romantic, soft sense of pinks and purples as shadows and undertones. And then we're going to be like, you know, kind of playing that against the dress. It'll also create a unification within the dress. We're going to be using a lot of those blues and magentas through the shadowing here, through here. It's going to be pretty strongly blue on this side. This will actually probably go into a phthalo blue, really, because it's a bit, it is a shadow, but it's got this reflection from the curtain, so it's like a lit shadow. It's sort of interesting how the lighting is there and also not there. Now I'm going to be working details here in this next step, really kind of trying to resolve the face. This is where this bunny's personality will come out, and I say this bunny because every time I do this, the face is going to be a little bit different. So sometimes they're grumpy, sometimes they're romantic, and it really depends on if I drop the brow or open the eye. And you know, if I've widened it or narrowed the distance between the eyes, or broaden the nose or narrow the nose. That's like in my experience where those little subtle differences will come from. It really isn't important. What will be important is that we capture sort of the dewiness, the doughiness of the eye, and the light and reflection in there. And this far eye, which is actually pretty minimal. I'll be working some little detailing here. And then once I get this nose in and these two eyes, this goes quick. I know it doesn't seem like it would go quick, but it goes quicker than you think. Much quicker than you would possibly think it would. But you got to get the detail parts in. Let's stretch our backs and necks. This is a long painting session. So remember, if you've got to stand up, if you've got to do self-care, it is a good idea to do it. All right, I have a Princeton #1 liner. We're going to go on into the next step. And I think I'm going to start with a little of my, did you step me, babe? Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my Doc's purple at first, not black, and start to kind of sketch in the face with a little bit of these deepest, darkest shadows. I do it this way because it will allow me to change my mind. Very, very easily. Keep in mind also, fur forgives a lot. Like a lot. Now I'm going to get into my black. And I'm thinning my black with a little bit of water so it will improve flow. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to set this eye. And then that will help me set this other eye. It's kind of a nice high arc. You see that little line there? And we're going to sweep down and over and join up. Sort of a very sweet curve and down swoop. Now, the thing that's important about this side is just that these eyes line up, because a lot of fur and covering of this really only peeks out. It just helps us create the sense of the skull shape when we go to add the fur. The second eye will really just help it feel kind of real. I'm going to initially come in and just paint my eye black. And I may go ahead and start the It's not a lash, but believe it or not, there's a little bit of a shadow that comes off that eye. Knowing where that is now will help me. Now that I have my nose, I will bring the little lines in. You can see they have almost the bottom of a heart there. This side should be longer than the far side. I'm going to add some little fine lines here in this darkness. Kind of are going to be like little lashes. Again, a lot of fur is going to cover that up, so I just need to have those there knowing that they're going to be there later. I'm going to take a little bit of my magenta, my cad red medium, and my dioxazine purple together. And I'm going to come on the inside of this eye. All along into that corner. Just for right now. I'll also add a little bit of this here. It's part of that little shading. Now, to work these eyes, I do want to get kind of the beginning of the values so that I can get fur worked out around them. So I'm going to get here. This is my yellow ochre, and this is my titanium white. It has a lot of yellow ochre near it. I may throw a little cad yellow in, and I'm going to come underneath. And start what is a highlight under the eye. And already you can kind of see that that really brings that in, doesn't it? Doing this now lets me set fur and things so much easier later, because I'll have this light line up to the eye where I need it. So many things can be different or changed, but getting into that right there, and I'm going to get into my little shadow color. And remember, that was all of this down here with some yellow ochre. So it was the quin and the cad red and the dox purple, and then some yellow ochre and white. We're going to come off here. And maybe even a little more dox. And we're going to just make sure that we've got a good beginning of a shadow coming off that eye. We will be changing it, but if it's there early, I can do something about it. I'm going to rinse that out. This mix here, which was the cad red, the quinacridone magenta, and the dox purple. Let's get some white into it and some yellow ochre. I'm going to come on the inside of this eye right here. And just the finest little line you can imagine. It does take some line control. A little bit at that corner there. Just a little. Just some. I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna, my cad yellow, and my cad red. I'm going to add a little of that right there. It's sort of a glow. Get a little more cad yellow. Trimming that down. But you can see that it's there. It's just it's a subtle little touch, but it matters. I'm going to get a little bit of my dox purple, a little bit of my white. It had the yellow ochre there. It had my two reds. Come in with a little bit of black, just kind of opening that lid a bit. I can exaggerate and raise this up some and open it out. Remember how I said how open the eyes were was going to affect how the bunny kind of looked. Mad, happy,
Yeah.
sad. This is super important. I won't worry about lashes and things like that at this stage, because really if I do, I will get lost in it. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue, my phthalo blue, and my titanium white. And add a little bit of a reflection up there. Come back with my blue. I gotta watch for that little drop. There she goes. She has the beginnings of her little faces. You gotta love her little faces. Woo! Sip our coffees. We got the eyes in. That was the most challenging part of getting that in, right?
Everybody really loves the eyes.
It's my favorite part to do. Isn't it fun to do eyes? It just is. I love it. Let's continue on through the bunny.
New step here?
New step. I'm going to continue on with my #1 monogram liner. It gives me control. I'm going to take it over to where I have my titanium white. And I'm mixing in a little cad yellow. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to just outline maybe the edge of this ear a little bit. And a little bit on that inside, right? Because we're trying to get that edge. That looks really good. So now we have our ears set. A little farther apart this time, but I'm okay with that. Okay. We're going to come in and get a little bit. Let's take a little of our lemon yellow if you have it. If you don't, you can use your cad yellow. And I'm going to add quinacridone magenta to it. I'm going to come in here and start to paint that glow on the inside of that ear. I'm using my filbert again, my #4 Isabet Iskrill. I just want to glow the inside of that ear. I might get a little bit of white into my mix, my lemon yellow. Kind of blend that out there because we do want a bit of a glow. If I have to get into my cad yellow, I will do that right there. Put a little quin in. It's quite lovely. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my phthalo blue and some white. Bring a little blue in there. Isn't that nice? And come over to the Docs Purple, which has had quinacridone, cad red, Docs Purple, yellow, ochre, and white. That kind of mutes it out. I'm going to take a little bit of my Docs Purple and my quinacridone and my burnt sienna together. Kind of work that inside edge a little bit. Adding a little white and kind of blending that. Just blending that generally. Let's get a little bit of our burnt sienna, our yellow ochre, and a little bit of our quin. Just start to think about that ear. Get a little black. Kind of blend and fade that in at the base of the ear. Right where it's going to be kind of going into our head. I'm going to take a little bit of my cad yellow and my yellow ochre. Next time you're up, babe, I need that mister because we're going to be here a minute, and I think even with my wet palette, it's going to get dry over time. I'm going to get into my white. And come in and kind of really try to tip that edge of that ear. And the mister over there. Making little soft strokes to start talking about that little outer edge being soft. I'm misting my palette just to help the paint stay workable, so I don't have to put out new paint. Because even with the wet palette, it being open as long as this, you know, I have to think about those things. Kind of little pulled strokes, which kind of imply a little hair there. Pulling that down, which implies a little hair there. I wipe off on my paper towel a lot. Little yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Wiping off, back into that mix. Little cad red and cad yellow. I'm just tinting the cad yellow with the cad red. Grab a little my quin magenta. Just blending that through. Just really trying to get that glow in there going. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take a little bit of my Doxazine purple, and I've got my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre white, and I get a little Dox purple into it, get kind of this interesting little shadowy mix. I can come into my blue. Lighten it up a bit. Brush it over here on this side of the ear. Now I'm going to switch brushes, my friends. I'm going to get into my grainer if I can find my grainer. I'll be very... There it is. Okay. So this is a Princeton grainer. It's a 3/8 inch. It's part of the Velvet Touch line, and I'm going to work a lot of this fur and ear up here. Let's go ahead and make this a new step because we're going to be getting into some details of fur now. It'll go real quick from here down. So I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna, and it has some yellow ochre and white into it. And I'm going to make little short strokes coming up here. Get into my white. Making little strokes up the back of the ear. As you can see, the nice thing about this is that it has very light hair-like strokes. I'm going to come up to the top of the head here. Keep adding white to it. I'm dry brushing that in, but I'm not going to paint out the shadow that I have. I need a little shadow. Let's get a little bit of that burnt sienna and ultramarine blue and white. One more burnt sienna. Get a little of my yellow ochre and cad yellow. Back into the white. Back into the white. Making short little strokes, and it kind of just helps us think of fur a little bit, doesn't it? I'm going to grab a little bit of my quinacridone and my ultramarine blue together, and haven't rinsed my brush that much. Brush just a little dusting of pinky purple up here into the fur. Get a little of my yellow ochre, titanium white. Grabbed a little blue there. Little phthalo blue. Right here. Rinse out. I'm going to get a little bit of this white into that purple. I'm going to let the yellow ochre kind of work into it. I'm going to add that little shading in there to the cheek. Let's get some yellow ochre. See how we're blending in there? So there's fantasy colors in this fur. There absolutely is. But we are working real hard here to make sure that it feels like fur to us. Even as I dry brush right over that dark purple, I'm just pulling through the face. I'm going to get into the purple over here, the Docks purple mix, where it was the burnt sienna, Docks purple, and yellow ochre.
So how many times have you painted this bunny?
This is the first time in acrylic paint.
So you didn't practice painting this bunny before this?
No.
You didn't have
Should
time.
I have done that?
No,
Should I have done?
It was more of a question. Someone was like, so how many times did Cinnamon paint this beforehand? And I was like,
I don't generally, it's rare.
Time-based
Yeah,
mostly?
because we have so much that we put out that I will paint it and repaint it and repaint it. I'm bringing yellow ochre through here in short strokes. But I know that, you know, sometimes people really want to get in there and paint and repaint, and that is okay. I'm going to take a little blue and white into this. I do think a little pre-design work is always a good idea, be it a digital sketch or a small thumbnail painting or pencil sketches or any of that sometimes. But, you know, sometimes one can just look at a photo and really get in there. I'm going to take a little of my yellow ochre and my cad yellow and cad red and some white here. And bring that out a couple places. What will really work on this bun is lots of color in the fur. Let me go ahead and get it into my white here. I do think about the directionality of the fur when I use this brush. A grainer is made so it kind of leaves a fur mark and helps, you know, give you that sense of fur. You still have to paint your fur. Let's get a little bit of our magenta on here. I haven't rinsed out. You can use it on its edge. You know, there's a lot of ways that you can. I'm loving this bunny. I'm sorry. I'm kind of having fun here, guys. I apologize. I know it's I'm sort of entertained by myself.
I like the bunny too.
I'm going to grab a little bit of my orange and let's add a little burnt sienna to the orange this time. And I'm going to kind of deepen the color of the fur up here by the nose. I'm going to go in here maybe a little more yellow. Little short marks there. It's not that I won't be going back through with other colors in the fur. I absolutely will. Speaking of, let's get into our white right now. And you'll notice that I dip in water. So you've either got to use fluid paint or a little more water to improve the flow off this brush. Just running the little layers of fur through. We got a blondie going here. Get a little cad yellow, a little more white. A little bit of a nice highlight above. on the edge and a little bit of a highlight below. Lighten up the little fur above the nose. And maybe a little more white into the mix. Tapping up and down. Just continuing to, I'd love to just continue to pull color into the fur. That's maybe a little more yellow ochre there. Oh no, get a little more burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. Rinsing out. And just loading up with some yellow ochre, and there's some white in this mix that was already there. Add some little yellow, pops of yellow. You know, let's get a little orange going. Add a little orange in the fur. You take a little bit of my black and ultramarine, kind of make a Payne's gray. Get a little brown in that Payne's gray. A little dark fur. Kind of above, and I'm going to just dust in maybe a little bit of ultramarine, but because it's got the Payne's gray in it, goes a little bit gray. Going to just kind of start to hint in more of a shadow there. All right, let's call this a step and dry everything, and then we'll come back with a smaller brush so I can do some work on this far side and some more fur work.
Yeah, I like how the bunnies, they come to their into their own as you kind of get in there. The fur sort of defines the face and really gives them their own personality, and that's something that just kind of evolves as the bunnies come out. So you can kind of have a plan that you're going to make one bunny, but the subtle shapes and shifts of their face, just it makes the different bunnies that you get. So don't try to adhere too closely to one bunny. Let your bunny just be.
Oh, everybody has a bunny?
Everybody has a bunny in them. You ready for the next step?
Yes. Give me another step. I'm going to work my liner out for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and load up a lot of white. Now, you at this point hopefully have noticed that there's a, the colors I've been working in this painting are in the center here. So I am picking them up every time I pick that up. I'm going to come here and kind of detail that out. Let's go leave it a little more white. And let's kind of Blend that into the fur there as well. Maybe highlight that reflection in the eye. I'm going to get a little of my black on the tip here. Pull a little bit of hairs out into the fur. I'm going to grab a little bit of this cream, maybe get a little yellow ochre into it. Kind of piece out a few little hairs here. It's okay to, like, you know, have to hand detail those in. That's all right. Come in and kind of shape this little area a little better. Blend out some of that. Just adding some little detail hairs here. Now, if I come into my ultramarine blue and my white, but it has a little of the burnt sienna, it will gray a bit. So it'll be blue, but it won't be blue blue. Adding a little kind of detail hair underneath there. And you're just kind of putting in some little hairs in. See how it just adds, each layer just adds a lot of personality to the piece.
It allows the bunny to just come out.
We have to make room for the bunny to be born. Yes, that's true.
The bunny's coming out of the darkness. It's a Baroque bunny.
She's a bit of one. I'm going to get a little gray on my brush where it has a little white in it. I'm actually going to go back over into the brown. I do want this to be here, but I want it to be a little more blended. Grab some yellow ochre. Now, we have all this to do over here, so let me... Lot to do, right? Yeah. And take a little bit of my phthalo blue. It's got a little bit of purple in there. Grab a little blue and white. Hair comes a little bit in front of the eye. Get a little white on that. I do want a little of my Docks purple and my ultramarine blue together with brown. Burnt sienna. Kind of what we had over here. Gotta thin that. And grab a little bit of my blue and purple. I'll blend out that shadow there. And I've got a little blue and white here. And maybe a little bit under here, right? Because it's a little bit in shadow. A little bit of phthalo blue. But see, there's browns, there are other colors on my brush, and what that does is it keeps any of it from being too saturated. And some little touches there. A little bit of highlight there on the fur. Add a little white. Now I can come over to my Quin Magenta. Can add some of that in, which is really rather lovely. Get a little white. I haven't rinsed the blue out of my brush. I'm grabbing a little Quin Magenta. Maybe touch a little pink at the nose. Okay, we can call this a different step because I'm going to switch brushes, but I'm going to be finishing up this fur, so it's really kind of, I'm going to take a little bit of my white, and this is the cad yellow and yellow ochre. I like to blend things kind of through. I think she's looking pretty good, my friends. There's some yellow ochre and cad red here. I'm kind of just putting some of that color back. Gonna add some to under this chest here, even though it's kind of in fur. Inferred that there's fur. I'm gonna grab some of my blue. Add some white to that blue. Pull some of that blue over here. So you see that even though I'm using fantasy colors, guys, what I'm doing is I'm also sort of tying it through. So yes, it's colorful and that's kind of wild, but it's also kind of magical. I'll take my ultramarine blue and my quinacridone magenta, and they make the nicest little lilac. And kiss a little bit of that up there. Grab a little lemon yellow and just kind of blend that into the ear, just kind of pulling colors around. One of the things that's super important and meaningful for us to do is to make sure that we have a nice little continuity of color. All right. We've got the bunny hands to do. I think we should make it a new step. I think we should make that a new step. Don't you all think that should be a new step? Steppy step. All right, I'm going to get back into my filbert because it's just a nice brush to start out with. And let's begin by taking a little bit of our burnt sienna over to the Docs purple. Maybe even a little more. And we're going to come here, and the back of this part of our arm is going to be deeply, deeply in shadow. And I'm using short little strokes. And that's going to be helpful to me later. I'm going to add this dark shadow under the paw here. Now this purple will probably only be here under the dress. Maybe at that forward. She looks really cute. Okay, I'm going to get into my cad yellow, and yellow ochre is like kind of a basic fur. Right, but we'll add a little kind of purple to it to sort of desaturate it. That's too much of the yellow. And come over here into the mix where I had the burnt sienna and the purple. I just want it to be lighter, but also a little bit desaturated. And grab a little white. Grab a little more white. Kind of dry brush what I have back into the shadowed area. This is not dissimilar to how we already sort of built everything up, is it? I'm going to get a little of my phthalo blue and burnt sienna together. Everything okay, babe? You need a stretch?
Just totally okay.
Okay.
I just have to stand up periodically.
I'm sorry.
Old joints.
We are doing so good, guys.
Yeah.
Let's get some blue going here. There's going to be reflections from the dress and everything down on the bunny hands. And I definitely want to start putting some blue in. And again, we're just thinking about these hands right now, right? These paws, these hands. I mean, clearly, they've got some type of hands because they're sewing. If you're a sewing bunny, you've got some kind of hands.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue with my dioxazine purple, ultramarine blue. You know, some of this will distinctly go away when I do the fur texture, but I just kind of want to create this sense of shading that could be right. And so we have kind of a nice little shape and flow to everything. Now, this is such a small area. I want to switch brushes. Let's dry it. I'm going to show you a cool thing, but what I'm going to suggest is you find a small brush or a round brush that you have some control over.
There we go. Yeah, so it's just to make sure you get that, get this next part dry so you can get the next set of layers on there in the right ways. This is coming together, little bunny paws. We're going to be done with the fur and then onto the dress, and it'll be done so fast. Just so fast. So sometimes I think that she's not going to take very long to dry, and she takes a lot longer, and then you just never know how to prepare for that. All right, so this is next step.
Next step.
All right.
I'm going to get a tiny brush. This is also a D brush, but it's itty bitty small D brush. And then I also have a teeny tiny round. These are by Raphael. This is a number 4 Textura round, and this is a 0 D brush in Textura. I just want to have a little control over my brush stroke. I'm going to get a little bit of my ultramarine blue and maybe my burnt sienna together. Kind of work this out. I'm getting a little white on here. I'm going to dry brush that a bit. And then maybe I get into my yellow ochre, and I haven't rinsed, and I'm going to also dry brush this a bit, and I'm going to softly kind of incorporate them together. Back into my Doc's purple and my burnt sienna. Gonna add some of that down here at the tips. I'm gonna wipe it off. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little of my yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and white. I haven't rinsed my brush out, so that will help some color continuity. In other words, some of the colors that I had from earlier here. I'm going to sort of piece some of these . What we might kind of misinterpret is, or interpret as, fingers. Right. Get a little yellow ochre and white. If I'm missing any questions, I'm super sorry. Okay. I'm seeing we're just starting to pull the shape. Let's go here and get a little of our ultramarine blue in there, and a little white so we can kind of shade it and show that it's there, but not. Let's get a little purple on there. I think I want some white. A little ultramarine blue. So we are just kind of creating that sense of space. I'm going to come over and do some work over here. A little yellow and Doc's purple and titanium white. But let's get some yellow ochre mixed into that Doc's purple. Because what does it do? It desaturates it. Doesn't mean I can't go pick up some more white and yellow ochre. I'm just making sure that I got get a little into the brown and purple here. You can see we're doing a similar thing over here. Let's get a little of the brown and purple. And go into my ultramarine blue and even some white, interestingly enough. See, those little paws are coming together. They do. They come together. I'm going to go ahead and take a little of my Doc's purple. And ultramarine blue. Kind of come underneath. I'm going to go ahead and get a little white and blue and burnt sienna again. Just make sure that the little fingies have a... They got to have a feels about them, sir. Again, this is just a small brush. I picked the D brush because it gives me a round edge and a straight edge, which I do like. I'm going to go ahead and get into my yellow, ochre, and white, but I've got a little purple on my brush. That is going to allow it to desaturate. See how we're getting some little shading on our little highlights on just those fingers. And I'm going to go ahead and grab some phthalo blue, but my brush is dirty, and I think that's important. If you guys really can know that I am or not rinsing my brush, which is why I'm trying to tell you guys when I am or am not rinsing my brush, because it makes a difference in the way the color will carry through painting. I've added a lot of phthalo blue. Maybe come up a little bit higher. I'm going to get into my phthalo over here. Look at that go. Let's rinse that out. All right, I'm going to take my number 4 round Textura round, just a nice little detailed round brush. I'm going to get a little of my white into my yellow ochre. And I'm making little rough marks, and that helps it feel like fur. Can you guys see how that does that? Come here and again. Get a little purple here and kind of improve that shading. Get a little blue. Back into the yellow and white. All right, let's call that a step. And you throw me up another step? All right, I am loading just black on my number 4 round. Just black, and I'm going to make a little dot here. And I'm going to come here and make some dots. We have to let that dry for a little while. That is necessary. So while we're letting that dry, let's have some fun. We are going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my phthalo green together. We may even get some burnt sienna involved in this. We're going to come in and start to paint in this really amazing dress. You can see it is kind of a blue color, like if you add a little white into it. See, I can see the blue-green of it. But I'm starting with its deepest shadows. I'm going to kind of wiggle the brush coming over the top because there's quite a bit of lacing. Now it's true that these are 2 ruffs, but because they are sort of the same fabric, I'm inclined to sort of paint their overall shape in first and then work in the rest of their little details. Pulling the 2 little ruffs apart once I have the basis of the shawl in. Okay, who just loves this bunny?
I love it.
I think this has to make it to Ireland to go into Luna Bella's room, don't you?
Yeah.
Now, while I'm here, I'm going to come in with my Dioxazine purple. The flowers will be super easy to throw in. And I know that's pretty cavalier of me to be like, flowers, will just throw me in. Some of you may not feel like that's your experience with this stuff, but it really isn't that bad. By the way, this would make an adorable mural in a room. Just taking the dots around the paws. And you can see why I say sometimes that I interpret dioxazine as almost a chromatic black, right? Which means something looks almost black to the eye, but has no black in it. I hope you guys are liking the bunny. I think I Jon Snowed her, but I still really love her. Sometimes. Remember when I put like 30 pounds on Jon Snow? I painted Jon Snow, but I painted him middle-aged after he had like 3 kids. Not necessarily on purpose, but it did work out that way. It was fantastic. Okay, now that we have that in, the black blob. But the blob up here is ultramarine blue, phthalo green, and a little bit of burnt sienna. And all the blob down here is dioxazine purple. And we put in a few little black dots. Let's dry everything, and we'll quick finish out the necklace.
Yeah, you have to get the darker colors in there to get that the sort of basis for all of the stuff that comes afterwards. So it'll be no problem. We'll just be able to make sure you get those undercoatings in there. Those dark colors, so you get that undercoat, and then thoroughly dry it, and then so you don't drag your hand or through it. So you don't drag your hand through the paint. 1 and 2, so the darker colors don't muddy the next layers that are coming on there. So make sure that thoroughly dry, and you can always just touch and test it that way. Ready for your next step?
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to get it done in one day, but we are. Go figure that. All right, I've got my Texture number 4 round. I'm going to go ahead and get a little of my yellow ochre, and I'm going to tone it a bit with black. Really sort of shade it with black, but I'm not going to take out the black that I have here. Right? We don't want to do that. Wipe off. I'm going to get a little of my burnt sienna. I'm going to touch in between these little spaces, kind of around. I adore painting metal, just so you know. It is one of my favorite things. I'm going to have to switch to my detail brush because it's about to get real up in here. I'm going to take a little of my cad yellow and my yellow ochre and mix them together. Thin it out on the brush. Make sure I don't have a hidden water drop. If I have to get one of my Raphael details out, I will. I'm going to begin the implication of little zones of the higher highlights of the gold. I'm going to put some thinned white out because I've really got to do this really fine. This is Golden Fluid Acrylic in titanium white. I really love this. It's hyper pigmented. It's self-leveling. If you have to do thin or fine lines or details, sometimes it's good to have some of this around. Just got a bunch of this for my mom because it is just so valuable. Yeah, just the tiniest little glitter of highlights. See how gold that is? That's how it goes gold. Oh my goodness. Y'all probably thought I wasn't going to do the necklace. All right, we'll call that a step. Oh, little do you know, we're doing the whole kit and caboodle today. It's the kit, it's the caboodle. It's the kit, it's the caboodle. The kit and the caboodle are happening today. All right, Kit and Caboodle kids, let's go ahead and add ultramarine blue and into our phthalo green. We still have probably a little of our burnt sienna in there. And we're going to kind of create the beginnings of like a little highlight. I'm using my number 4 Acrylic. I'm going to tap a little line down here. This is the beginning of me thinking about the ruff. It's just a rough little highlight, isn't it? Not too much in the center here, right? Because that's quite dark there, and we'll need to keep it. Already you can see it, can't you? This is why a lot of people like going into fashion design. This nonsense right here. It's just fun to paint fabrics. Fabrics are fun to paint. They really are. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to go ahead and I think I will do the center rows in a little Dox purple and Cad red. I'm just going to paint the outer shape of it, not like the space it takes up, not the details of it. I can do that later. Don't need to get all the details in. Just want to get some purple in. Take a little bit of my white. Can, you know, kind of tone that into the green that she's wearing with a little burnt sienna, because it's like a teal green. Be sure to leave lots of shadow. Right? I'm just dancing the brush around. I'm capturing the tops of the crinkle of the fabric. You can get into a little ultramarine blue if I want to kind of shade things. And it's probably good to keep a little bit of the dark color around for going back in, which is the burnt sienna, the ultramarine, and the phthalo green. Coming back with what it's sort of blended into. Here we go, just adding a little highlight to that. She's just coming alive. She is just coming alive. Kind of hitting the edge of it, a little bit highlighted. I need to leave the dark shadows right there. It's going to help it feel like the little rough area is going over. I will not try to work any of the embroidery work yet. Let's get a little more white into the mix. Adding little highlights down the rough. See how we're doing? Just touch it. On collar. Not every spot. It's not a line. It's broken because the fabric has fold and weight to it. So not all of it. Right. We can put a little bit of highlights, a couple places. Little brush there. You should not have the brush strokes feel invisible to you, right? They should all feel, adding little shadows back where I need the shadows. So like, you can always kind of dry brushing that back. Still there, just a little more muted. The upward and downward kind of little wiggles for the fabric there. Look at us go. We are cooking with fire. I will get into a smaller brush like my detail rounds, like my D brush, but there is this time that's really rather nice to kind of work in big areas and then be like, how do I want to kind of work that down. All right, I'm going to switch to my D brush. My teeny tiny number 0 D brush. You could use a little filbert, little 1/4 inch angle. You could use a lot of different brushes here. I don't want you to feel brush trapped. You're not. I'm going to take a little bit of my mix again, which is my ultramarine, my phthalo green, and my burnt sienna. Come out here and I'm going to make sure that the shadow from that highlight to this part of the ruff I'm also going to make sure that that edge ribbon is maybe a little more shaded than, you know, we kind of think. Take this here, mix it into where I had the white, but I don't want it quite as white as I did have it. A little white here on my brush. Pull that little wrinkle, that ruffle forward. Adding little highlights. Okay. Remember where I had that little bit of fluid white? I'm going to take it in my #1 liner. I'm going to mix these together and make a very light version of this color. I'm going to come along this with that and make such a little detailed set of marks, right? These are like maybe the way the stitching is gathering. I used to sell little tiny versions of Renaissance bunnies and animals on eBay a bazillion years ago as ACEOs. You remember that, John? Do you recall?
A little bit.
Yeah, they were teeny tiny little paintings, 2.5 by 3.5.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
I remember that.
ACEOs are ATCs
I
that you
remember
get
the
money
bunny.
for.
I think I may still have that.
I think we've got at least a picture of him.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Well, there was a lot of bunnies, and a lot of them sold. One of the things I was not good about in my early painting life was making sure that I took pictures. Just coming along here and just making sure that it's very delicate. Kind of a little roughly in there. Just a little roughly. You've got this. Comes along. I know, he's a lot. But I figured a bunch of you who were like, oh, I need something before Acrylic April starts that's not abstract. I thought, oh, let's have fun with that. Let's call that a step, babe. And come back. We're going to add some, you know, zhuzh to the flower. And are we going to run out of steps? Okay. That moment when I realized I haven't given John any idea how many steps would be in this. So I'm going to take my Doc's red and my Doc's purple and my Cad red. I'm going to add a little white to it. I'm using my #4 round by Raphael. Just very delicately painting the highlights on the petals. Might even get some magenta into that. Into the white. Just tiny little touches, guys, because it's kind of a little detail part. That's what I would say is probably the hardest part, is that when we're doing kind of a detailed painting and it's a little bit smaller, which is all I can do on the road, you do have to make sure that you can see what you are painting. Adding just a little bit of the magenta as a bit of a highlight to the top side of the rose, but we're leaving those shadows there. I'm going to rinse out. I'm going to get my little detail brush. I'm going to get my little detail brush, and I'm going to get a little white and magenta on it. There we go, just a little thought. Let's come over here, and I'm going to grab a little magenta and white again. paint in what seems to be, hopefully, feels like a bit of embroidery on the dress. Can only hope. Can you see how I'm wiggling my brush around to sort of imply that? One of the things, I'm going to grab a little bit of my lemon yellow and my magenta. And add some highlights to the threading. This is again with my number 1. Just adding a few highlights to the threading. Don't you love it? Can come and touch the top of the rose too sometimes. Just adding little color as you go. That's pretty lovely. Now I'm going to take my white over to the blue from the dress again. We're going to add what appears to be a little bit of a highlight that could also be embroidery. And how I'm doing that is I'm doing like, so in art there's this thing where we make marks. They're like a little calligraphy mark. They're a mark that reminds us of writing or hand stitching. We can always go through and in detail do exactly like every little bit of hand stitching, but there's actually kind of a joy to just suggesting go ahead and take maybe even a little green. A little lemon yellow and green. Just touches. It's not just quite fun. I think I'm going to put back a little bit of my cad red and Docs purple. Put some little shading back on the rose. Okay. There's the upper part of the dress. Woo! We are powering through.
This is really coming together great.
It's fun stuff,
It's
right?
like just a little bit more on the dress, and like, I mean, I think you're almost there.
Little flowers, and we're done. And the flowers are going to be the easy, easy peasy part.
Yeah.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
All right. So you're on to the next step.
On to the next step. The next step. The next step. Gonna be painting the next step. I'm gonna get a round brush, a round brush. You don't have to get a round brush, but I'm gonna get a round brush. Number 8, Artney. Watch the viewership drop as I sing. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of my quinacridone and my Docs purple together, and I'm gonna get a smidge of white into it. And using my round brush, I'm going to very carefully sketch out some of the highlights. Actually, I have to put that back, that shadow back. Sometimes it's easy to get rid of some of the shadows you need, putting the highlights in the dress. This is just trying to find the way the fabric is folding, so it's I'm going to go back into my docs where I need to and make sure that I've got good shadow. Because it's super important to have good shadow. If I get too far into my bunny arm, I won't feel like I have good shadow, and that's why I kind of want to make sure. Just making sure that's in shadow, but shows as separate from the rest of it. Now we've got lots of weird little highlights that are super fun. Let's kind of maybe work on the ribbons. So we'll take the the quinacridone magenta and the cad red and a smidge of white. And on the toe of my brush, I'm going to paint some of the highlights of the ribbon. And then also folds of the fabrics. We're just capturing that there. Isn't that fun how we can be just so gestural with it? Get into the, so this is the docs and the cad red and a little bit of white, but there's quinacridone magenta sort of still on my brush. And again, we're just laying out that first thought about any of this. There are many, many other thoughts to come. I don't really need to worry about this down here at all. I'm putting a bunch of flowers there, so it just isn't going to even be important. Let's dry that because we really need that layer. Doesn't that look like the fabric is glowing? I get asked all the time, how do we get that? How do we get that glowing fabric? And it's really about, well, the CAD does help, but it's just about the values and the way we play against these dramatic lighting backgrounds.
This is really, really nice. I loved how this bunny is turning out. Have to say it's probably one of my more favorite subject matters that she's done here. So she does these occasionally. We'll see her little bunnies, but they come up there and they're sort of these Baroque bunnies. They have all in these sort of wonderful fantasy Renaissance style costumes. They've always been one of my more favorite topics that she's done.
Hmm?
I like your bunnies.
You like my bunnies? I painted bunnies on
Ready
occasion.
for your next step?
Yes. Yes, I am. We're actually, I think we'll be done around 2021. Not the year. I mean, I'm going to take a little cad red and magenta together, and I'm not going to add any white or anything. I'm going to just come here and add some of that vibrancy to maybe little parts of the fabric. The little ribbons that could be falling down, the little folds of the fabric, they're over here. See how that's like a glowing? Go ahead and get that mixed back into the white that has the dots purple. Make sure my brush isn't very wet, that the background is dry. I'm going to just very carefully dry brush highlights into the folds. Right, so if I have a wrinkle there, I really want to leave that shadow, don't I? Adding some highlights here. And we're going to definitely still embroider the dress and do all that stuff. Same that we had up here. Add a little more white. Capture a few more little highlights. See how it just pops out? Little cad red, quin magenta, docks purple, and white. Maybe a little more cad red, quin magenta. Just soft pressure. See, I'm just kind of softly diffusing this highlight around, kind of trying to keep a spot where it's hot. Oops, a little cad red there. Just dropping that along the tops of the fabrics. How fun is Mr. Bun Bun? How fun is Mr. Bun Bun? Now, if you're like, oh my gosh, is acrylic April going to be like this? No, it's super easy. Other than the emotional journey that abstract is, the physical tasks of abstract, especially if you're not designing it, are super chill. And it would be an easy, fun kind of backing into it way to learn how to do some of these techniques and address these concepts without having to address, like, it's a bunny. It's just enjoyable. I just love that. Just putting that to the side over there. All right, let's dry this. Let's dry this and we'll put in some embroidery.
Just a little bit more trimming. Just that little bit of trim on there, and that'll make that embroidery just pop right on out, and it'll look so nice. She used to do these in a lot, this sort of bunny style. So this is kind of her. We would have bunnies. Actually, I think she did bunnies riding lions and horses and all sorts of animals. There was a lot of interesting bunny stuff there for a while.
I like her little gold necklace.
Ready for your next step?
Yes, we are ready for the next step. Next step. We're going to do the next step. All right. First, we're going to get a little bit of our fluid white and maybe a little ultramarine blue to kind of offset it a bit. Maybe a little purple. So we want it to be light against the background of the dress, but we don't. And we want it to feel like it could have been white thread, but we don't want it to be a bright white. See, and that reads as bright white, even though it's quite grayed out. I like to sort of carry it through. Like you're seeing little bits of it here, but it's folded so you don't quite know what the pattern is. You get the sense it could be floral. Perhaps. I mean, bunnies probably very much appreciate the garden. I think about that a lot. I think a lot about Beatrix Potter and the way we humanize animals. Honestly, we should humanize them more. Frankly, I think we're kind of jerky to the animals. You know, not that I'm like going up and petting everybody in nature. I respect a bear. I've fallen down a big bear trap this week. And you know what my takeaway is? Don't touch the bear. If you love the bear and you want the bear to be okay,
Stay away from the bears.
Stay away from the bear.
Give the bear some breathing room.
The bear needs breathing room. Now I'm gonna let this mix a little bit into the background color of this, but I do want it to be a little bit green, so I'm sort of finding that right now. Yeah, if you love the bear, don't pet the bear. That's because if you pet the bear and then the bear eats you, then they have to put the bear down. And also, it would be terrible to be eaten by a bear. That's my new thinking in the world. Just don't do that. I'm not going to say the name of the movie, but I bet many of you can imagine how my internet search started about a bear who had a substance abuse problem. That's actually I found it. So what happened is I saw the thing about that movie. I don't want to get demonetized, so I'm going to say the bear that had a substance abuse problem. And that was like a very funny trailer, but it's based on a true story. And I was like, oh, please not. And so then I went to find out what really happened. I'm just taking this green and I'm delicately stitching it around the dress. Trying to give it that sense of embroidery. And so then I found out that no, like somebody did die, but it's because the substance that people have an abuse problem with fell out of a plane and hit a guy in the head. This doesn't spoil the movie for you. And then a bear found another package in the woods and was curious and ate it and immediately died. He didn't go on a rampage. It just ended the bear. You know, it was weird how they found out how that happened too. And then once I was there, the algorithm was like, let me show you all the crazy bear things you never heard of. And what I learned is bears are wonderful creatures, fantastic. And one, the bear is in charge. It's in charge. And if it's tolerating you, it's because it feels like it. And it could at any minute change its mind, tolerating you in every conceivable way. And I thought about this a lot because we had a little bear that would come through our property. And, you know, they just put up with us is what it is. Until they don't. So don't like, you know, run after the bear, push the bear. Don't do anything to the bear. The bear is in charge. When you fall down with strange. I was a wombat whole day. I fell down in the whole bunch of wombat videos. Remember that? I was like, now I know everything about wombats. When you get sick and you watch TV, you learn a lot of things. And what I'm doing here is I'm just being super delicate, right? I'm making sure the marks have that feeling of embroidery. They're light and they're, you know, they've got lots of curves. There's little dashes. It just gives you the sense that there's a pattern there. You don't have to have a perfect pattern. That is not required A lot of times people think it is, but it is not. All right, my friends, guess what? We're going to dry this, and then we'll put some little flowers in. Do you want some flowers?
I think some flowers
in the corner? Good. I don't know why I put them there. They're there now.
Yeah.
So we're going to paint them.
So little flowers, that won't take much. It'd be very simple to get some flowers in there. I really liked how this one turned out. It was probably one of my... one of my more favorite ones here. Let's see here. I was just going to find out. Yeah? This has turned out pretty good.
Huh?
This has turned out pretty good.
Did you think it would not?
No, I knew it was going to turn out.
He's like, I'm
good.
not causing no trouble. Stop.
There you go.
Okay, I'm going to get a slightly larger round brush, and we're going to put in some greenery and some little flowers. That's actually going to be kind of fun. So let's start with a little bit of our phthalo green and our burnt sienna. Great color combo. And a smidge of our cad yellow, which is like really seeing the end of its moments here. Come here, and I'm going to add some little moments of green. They're quite dark at this stage. It's very dark, and these are like little stems, and I'm just loosely sketching them out. And how I do that is sort of a broken line. See how these are broken little lines? But they do feel like they're connected. This doesn't have to be everything. It's just some things, right? And that's an important part to understand about when you're painting, is that let's get a little more yellow into it. We don't have to say everything. We just have to say some of the stuff. We have to tell people a little bit about highlights. Shadows, shapes, some stuff we saw on the way to our painting. Add a little white here. I'm just wanting to make sure that I get a little, and I may even come in with my kind of highlighting the front of those stems. Now I've got some wonderful purple flowers, and we'll start with just a little bit of Doc's purple and a smidge of white. Still pretty dark, but we're starting to see it because this is going to be kind of like these little, oh gosh, almost like clovers is what I want you to kind of think of. You could think of thistles, but I was, clover was what I was kind of thinking of because, bunny. Not to be super meta, but bunny, like a clover. I think sometimes when you do stuff like this, if you put little elements of this in, it can make it feel like, I'm going to put a little, see, these are just blobs, bloobs. They're bloobs of purple. Difference sometimes between me and a very new painter is I'm very comfortable with my bloops of purple. And they're not yet comfortable with their purple bloops. So that's purple bloops. I guess it's going to be 22 because I got to put the first layer in and then do the finishing highlights. And then let's get a little white. And I'm going to come over here. I usually, if you guys paint with me a bunch, kind of tone my white with blue, but in this case I'm going to do it with my burnt sienna and Mars black that's over here. And this is curved strokes. When it's here, it curves towards the left, and then when it's over here, it curves towards the right. So the curves do help the directionality of the flower. Bloops. Let's get some peach in there. We know how peach is done, don't we? Peach is orange and white. So we'll get a little white into it, but not a ton at this particular stage. These will be little comma strokes that go around each other. And maybe I'll get a little more. There we go. Other little bloops. I blooped. That's really all you need is a few little bloops. Dry this and we'll come back and we'll finish the flowers. Flowers are a lot easier than you might think.
Yeah, the flowers will come back in just a little bit more on that. I don't think it'll take too much to just touch those up. You want to thoroughly dry that out just to make sure that those, yeah, that's what I thought. It wasn't going to take too much. Okay, so you ready for your next step?
Yes, hopefully, I believe last step. We're going to put out a little more fluid white. We need it around because we're going to get wild. I'm going to take my little detail brush and I'm going to add a little of my lemon yellow to my green over here just to kind of change it up. And I'm going to get a little of my white in that. And I'm going to add some little fine lines. So the reason I kind of wanted this green to be a little different than the other greens is so that it didn't get lost against the green stitching. Right, and so that adds some little interesting greens. I'm going to kind of wipe that out. I've got my purple here, and I'm going to get a lot of my white over here. And we are going to, on the, our light is heavier over here, so we're going to do it on the right hand side. Make little kind of curved marks to help shape that flower. Maybe a slightly darker purple on the left. See, I just went into a deeper purple. It's like a little bud. It's really not harder than that, and that's why sometimes these are super fun to paint. I'm doing the darker purple on the left just real fast, and then here I will do it more on the bottom, maybe even quite much darker. And then we'll get the lighter purple going. See how that shapes those little clovers? Isn't that fun? Just little marks. I'm just using my number 1. I know we've used it a lot. I don't often get into my detail brush because I feel like when you're new to painting, it can be easy just to rely on your detail brush, but sometimes it's just nice to be in your detail brush. I'm going to bring a little bit of my white over to this mix that I had earlier and just make a lighter color. Oops, so what happened to me there was a hidden drop on my brush. That will happen sometimes when you rinse out. I'm going to go ahead and get into this little green here. I'm just putting a little bit of green in that center. Gives it a little bit of center, doesn't it? Maybe just touch the tops of these so that it feels small and barely lit. And I can go right over into my peach. Pick up some yellow in my peach, right? It can be quite warm. Grab some lemon yellow just to really push it. See how we're just kind of highlighting some peach? Look at those little peach peony kind of having its little, oh. Just a little curve. Guys, what did we just do? Look at it. We did it. It was a journey. Took us some weird places. It was not fast, but honestly, man,
I really like the bunny.
did it pretty quickly for what it is. And I think it's important to know that you can do this stuff, you know? I'm going to come over here. I think I will. It's hard to know how to sign, so I'm taking my green and my purple. I'm kind of intermixing them, getting a mid space between them. What this will do is it will gray out, but will also give me a signature color that I can see that doesn't pull the eye too much. Yeah, we painted that. We painted it. So did I miss any, before I go, did I miss any questions or was there anything?
Let's go back over through here. Did you got the necklace there? Let me make sure. I'm
yes, I
back
did.
over there. Okay. So there was someone asking earlier, make sure you get the necklace.
Yeah, I got the necklace.
I want to make sure.
I didn't want to leave anything behind.
Yeah, I'm moving you over is why I'm not reading the questions right now. Just give me a second here and I will slide you over.
So doing a painting like this takes a couple of things. No one technique in here is particularly challenging. And they're all techniques you could learn by, do the beginner acrylic painting course and then 10 more of the 2 hoop paintings and you would have most of these techniques. What gets challenging about paintings like this, make sure you have the complete palette and the tool sets to do it can be really, really helpful. It's nice to have a variety of brushes. I have lots of little brushes, right? So I have a bunch of brushes that I got. I haven't even opened. I was going to do an unboxing one day with you guys. Like this is my travel set of brushes. And then plus what you saw me make dirty. I got also 2 cups over here full of short handled that are just as full as those 2. And then I have 3 cups over there of brushes I haven't opened yet. And that's my travel. At home, I have a lot of tools. But we don't get there day one. We don't get there when we're trying to decide, is this a hobby I'm into or am I interested in painting or, you'll get there. If you paint consistently, you will get there. Brushes are like triples. There's always more. But having a variety of tools, you could often use 2 or 3 tools for a particular technique or outcome. But you'll find that sometimes you're in a mood for a debrush or no, I just want to use my filbert or I'm going to get into my detail today. And it's really sometimes also about you and how you feel about the technique that you're doing. The other thing that's hard about a painting like this is just that it took 3 hours. Right? 3 hoot.
It's a 3-hour tour.
Yeah, sometimes that's another indication. If it's going to be 2.5 to 3 hours, I'm going to call it a 3 hoot. If I think we're going to be there together for like 5 hours, we go, it's an advanced painting. Then we're like, it's an advanced painting because just the sheer will of sitting there for that long takes a lot. But there is stamina in painting. And sometimes when we're artists and we're painting, we're like, trying to get that stamina. And many of you will paint on this all the way up to Acrylic April. Just getting her finished before you start Acrylic April. If you're not aware, Acrylic April is a 30-day painting challenge that I do every year. This is my 5th year. We paint from April 1st to April 30th. I very bravely did the topic abstract. And I chose to do that this year because, one, we have a lot of great years before this, but abstract teaches some very important art skills in design and form, function, tools, techniques. And it also doesn't ask us to sit as long. During COVID, we did like all landscapes. We were just, because we were home anyways, right? So, but this is a shorter year and the classes are not going to be this demanding. There is a demand to painting every day. There is a demand to painting a long time. Oh, and it's free. It's free to do Acrylic April. Free. The book isn't free. School isn't free.
Where do they get the paint list for Acrylic April and all the materials list and supplies? They were
on your newsletter tonight, in group tonight, and probably before tonight. So as soon as I stretch from sitting, I'm gonna go up and post it. I have both of them. I have both of them done. And I got a little behind because I got so sick. Everything will be out by tonight, probably on the Facebook page tonight. I'll put it in Art Sherpa Official, the Acrylic April group, and the Facebook page on Facebook. I'll put it in the community tab here. I will put it in the newsletter. I'll try to get a newsletter out tonight. I'll put this baby in there just in case people didn't know we painted him. And her. Hello. I did not mean to be rude. And gosh, you're just gorgeous, and I love you very much. I just don't want you to think that I'm talking about paintings. Sometimes if you spend a long time with them, they become alive and they talk to you. So I didn't know if you know that. Just fair warning, your paintings will sometimes speak back. I will get that there, and I will get that in the newsletter. And so that should be a bunch of places for you guys to have it. I have the materials in my new store, which is getting easier every day to shop at. And I think we have a kit imminently going soon. What do I mean by kit? It's kits are kind of broken down into what we think. This is about the functionality of the website. Everything I used, like the mega kit, it's like if I picked up a brush, it's in that kit. And then there's what I think you probably have to have. And then we also have it broken down into just paint or just brushes or just canvas. And so, but you can one click a whole bunch of stuff in there. The team's just trying to figure out how to make the website not break when we do the clicky thing, because it only wants you to be able to select 10 things for this function. And we're like, but it's like a lot more than 10 things. There's so many things, but there's the canvases and the brushes and everything I use. And if you have the list, you could go there and shop it, or elsewhere. I'm not going to be offended. I'm still going to offer classes for free. It's just a different way to make a living at what I love to do for free, right? It's just another way of doing that. And I don't then have to do sponsorships or partnerships I don't want to do, or and also I want a place where prices don't change just because everybody goes and buys it. Because sometimes I'll say, oh, this D brush is amazing. Guys, the D brush is an amazing brush. And then the brush sells out. And then they raise the prices. So I will just sell out, but I won't raise the prices on you unless I have to pay more. So that's kind of what's going on with that. But I'll get that out to you guys today. It's so pretty. This could be a nice time lapse. It's going to be a good short.
Yeah.
She's pretty. I'm going to put it in my kids' room. I'm going to put a big gold frame on it, like big. Maybe paint it bigger. Big would be really good. Like big. Like 4 foot by 4 foot would be really pretty. Anyhow, because I got so much free time with moving to Ireland and everything. It's just, Any other questions, babe? Oh.
Which of your brushes do you use the most?
Okay, yeah, so I am going to make a list of that. I'm going to get with the team about it, because the people that help me with the mini books probably have a really good idea of what brushes I use the most, because they have to write down all the brushes that I use. The base list is a pretty good place to start for acrylic April, but I just have a grip of them I go through. The other thing is I've been thrown off my usual brushes because I'm traveling, but these still represent what I have to paint. Even though those buckets are full, they represent duplicates and triplicates and quadruplicates of maybe a single brush, right? So let me get with the team, and then maybe that's the project we do over April, is figure out how to make those master lists that just make shopping and painting with me a little bit easier. It's hard for me to know. I get really weird in it, because I'm like, but what if they need that brush? Chances are you don't need it, though I do think it's nice to have duplicates of your favorite brushes. I do think that's really good. Couple palette knives, some mediums for blending.
Let's see. Lots of people are checking out the store.
What will I do with the paintings when I move?
Oh, yeah. I saw that coming up earlier.
Oh, gosh, man.
We're going to ship them. They're going to be coming over on
So there's
pallet.
a couple thousand paintings, and I'm not exaggerating that, and it may be more. It might be closer to 4,000. I haven't really counted. In storage in Pennsylvania. And then there's just a few hundred here. It's not that many. Not that many.
We'll get them.
Here.
They're on a pallet, I think. Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if Mom's stealing one. So maybe I can leave some here. Yeah, I think it's going to go on a pallet. We're going to box them and put them on a pallet. And we'll probably put, there's this special plastic glassine that you can wrap the paintings in. And the glassine isn't too hard on the acrylic. The issue with shipping acrylic is that if it sticks to everything. And if it gets warm, it really sticks to everything. And then sometimes it makes an imprint.
Yep.
Like a CSI crime scene. So the trick is shipping stuff when it's not too hot and making sure stuff isn't touching the surface. There's a really great packing instruction set over at Golden Artist Colors Just Paint that shows you how to build a perfect archival box for shipping the most perfect painting and never having anything happen to it. I'm kind of like, you need to live, survive. I Gen X my paintings. Oh, not anyone has seen the D brush. Okay, so let's do a quick close-up look at the D brush. Let me get some D brushes out here. I think I have some fairly large ones. All right, the D brushes. So the reason they're called D brush is they're flat on one side with a sharp edge, and then they're rounded, and there's kind of a transition of the filaments coming back and a soft edge. You guys see that there? Maybe you can see it better on, oh, you can see it better on the hawk.
You can see it.
So and what that does is that lets you paint crisp edges, and then it also lets you blend. So you can do like, you can get right up to something, and then you can also really easily blend. It's a brand new brush. I'm sure every company is going to knock it off in about a second, but right now Raphael has them. They come in teeny bitty mini sizes in synthetic and hog, and I think it's nice to have both. They have a short length out, which is really nice because then they're stiff enough for heavy body paint. But still, the synthetics are nice enough for soft body paint. I really love the hogs. The hogs don't over soften. They're good for everything. They're just good for everything. They're like two brushes in one. They're like a multi-tool. Think of them as a brush multi-tool because they're like a filbert. Like there's your filbert, there's your crisp edge, there's your sharps, but then there's your blendy. It's really cool. At first, when they sent them to me, I was like, why you make this brush? I don't understand your thinking here. And I got a bunch of them, and I started playing with them, and I was like, Mom, do you want some? And I gave a bunch to Mom. And so if you watch my mom, Ginger Cook, over at Ginger Cook Live, she's been painting with them for a second. And then I had to get her a bunch more because she really liked them. And she doesn't often like brushes. So I got her a bunch more, and then I got me a bunch more, and then I got sent a bunch more because we talked about them. And so there's a giant bunch of them over there. And I love them. They're just super good for doing a lot of things. I think that they're going to become a very popular brush with painters pretty quickly. You know, and I certainly hope if you're an artist out there, you wouldn't like not try it because like they're like the Art Sherpa likes it. But that's still good because I got to paint every day, twice a day, 2-3 times a day. If I like it, it's probably a pretty decent product because I don't like to be annoyed. John will tell you if I get annoyed, it's just
it ruins your artistic groove.
It does. It really ruins my artistic groove. Can you get notified when the shipping issues get fixed, please? It's $20 shipping for 3 brushes. Is that correct? I doubt that's correct, Melissa.
So we've been adjusting some of our shipping stuff. I don't think that's correct. So
there was definitely something broken in the store.
They've been changing a lot of that stuff.
Here's what. If you have anything in your shopping cart that's that wrong, right? Like if you like, I don't know, maybe if it's, we're in the contiguous United States, so shipping is not that much. Write us at support@theartsherpa.com if you ever get into our store and something isn't right with your cart before you check. I mean, we'll always fix it if you check out, but before you check out, write us and we'll probably get in there and fix it. And see if we can't fix it because it's just our store. So.
We have some technology abilities.
D-brush is out of stock on Jerry's all sizes, says Trish Woods. Well, I'm not out of stock. I have some.
I think we got some.
We have some.
Well, to check, you know what? We have to check our inventory, but I'm pretty sure we got some last time I checked. So.
Yeah, we should have some.
Yeah, so check it out. We have a pretty good.
See, my mom sold out Jerry's because she was talking about it first.
Yeah.
I know that's her. They don't know that's her. They owe her so much. They don't even. Jerry's Art Aroma does not know how much they owe my mom. They have no idea. No idea. I have such dish on that, but I won't dish today. I will not spill the tea today. But my mom is amazing and has done a lot for them, and they should send her flowers in a gift basket, in my opinion. But I'm not in charge of anything. All right, guys. I feel like we spent some lovely time together and had a nice little chat after because that was a long class, so I wanted to chat with you. This will be a minute to do, but just take your time. I don't know when this mini book will get out because I got to give everybody a break from the other mini books that we just had to do because we have to publish the books for Acrylic April, which will be on Amazon when they're done. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon, especially April 1st or Tuesday for the palette class. Bye-bye.